This is super hot steam emanating from the earth at very high pressure. We like to call it geothermal power, and it's currently the main source for generating electricity in Kenya. Geothermal steam is the reason why power rationing in Kenya is a thing of the past. It is also the future of energy in Kenya, and I'll explain why in this video. I know the idea of power rationing may be unfamiliar to some, so here's a little bit of historical background. Between 2008 and 2011, after the post-election violence and during the global financial crisis, KPLC had to publish daily notices in the newspaper to notify Kenyans of scheduled blackouts as a result of load shedding. What load shedding means is that the power supply to the grid is less than what is being demanded. This means that the demand load has to be reduced for the grid to remain balanced and functional. This is usually achieved by cutting power for designated areas at different times. KPLC like to call it power rationing. This is what is currently happening in South Africa, whereby the coal plants they rely on to generate electricity have degraded due to lack of maintenance. This has left the country with inadequate power supply, meaning they have to ration power to give everyone at least a few hours of electricity every day. Not many years ago, Kenya was in a similar position. So, here's the story of how Kenya fixed the power rationing problem. Prior to geothermal steam being a major source of power in Kenya, hydroelectricity was the main source, with the Seven Forks scheme along the Tana River supplying the largest share of hydroelectricity in Kenya. But Kenya never had sufficient and stable hydroelectric power to meet the national demand. For instance, during drought, water levels in hydroelectric dams are bound to fall, and when this happens, the potential energy from these dams reduces significantly and consequently impacts the supply of electricity. Simply put, hydroelectric sources in Kenya are not only insufficient but also unstable because they are easily affected by climate conditions. Kenya also relied on thermal engines and hydroelectricity imports from Jinja in Uganda to meet electricity demand. These were expensive, unstable, and left us at the mercy of foreign countries. In fact, I recall that whenever scheduled power rationing blackouts occurred, people like to say, Uganda umetuzimia stima. Kenya was in a delicate position, whereby our economy was vulnerable to manipulation by neighboring countries. We had to ration power because supply was never enough. But similar problems continue to haunt us today. This year, drought has led to loss of about 10% of hydroelectricity. But in today's Kenya, a bustling economy where many possess smartphones and spend a lot of time on Twitter, no one wants the electricity to be rationed. So, when supply drops, instead of power rationing, we're forced to turn back to the old thermal engines to cover up for lost supply. These thermal engines run on diesel, making them expensive to operate, especially at the current fuel prices. High operating costs are passed on to the consumer, and that is why we are paying higher electricity bills than ever before. But that is not the full story. With the problem of insufficient power generation hanging over our heads, Kenya had to look to other sources if she were to meet the national demand for electricity and grow her economy. This is where geothermal steam came into play. By harnessing high pressure steam from the Earth's heat, we can generate a stable supply of electricity with minimal impact to the environment. This source of generating electricity is neither affected by climate conditions like hydroelectricity, nor does it have high operating costs like thermal engines. It combines the best of both worlds, providing a stable and renewable source of power. But hydroelectricity and geothermal power had one major caveat in common: high development costs. Building hydroelectric dams and drilling traditional large-scale geothermal wells are massive construction projects that require thorough assessment on environmental impacts and extensive feasibility studies before they can kick off. These projects could take years of development for gains that could only be realized at completion 5 to 7 years after breaking ground. These projects were essentially a money pit with little to zero return on investment. Even the national government denied funding for some proposed geothermal projects due to their huge price tag. But things changed. Thanks to the development of geothermal wellhead technology, the development costs for geothermal power were significantly reduced. This is what a geothermal wellhead plant looks like. It is a modular geothermal power generation system with parts that can be easily transported to a geothermal site in standard 40-foot shipping containers. A single geothermal wellhead plant can have power ratings ranging from 3.5 megawatts to 11 megawatts. They're easy to install at a geothermal site and can begin operating with a simple turn of a key soon after installation. This is compared to conventional geothermal development, which requires at least 20 megawatts of steam and extensive steam gathering systems and infrastructure that add complexity and increase time taken before generating power from geothermal steam wells. In 2012, the Icelandic Green Energy Group, abbreviated GEG, and Gengen were the first companies in the world to successfully test and prove geothermal wellhead technology. After 18 months of testing and operation, Kengen was happy with the results. Some lessons were learned and changes had to be made, but overall, it was a successful demonstration of this new technology. Following this success, Kengen contracted GEG to develop an additional 14 plants at the Olkaria site to generate 81 megawatts of power. Between 2012 and 2017, Kengen and GEG brought these stations online, and since then, power rationing in Kenya has become a thing of the past. Using geothermal wellhead technology, undertaking geothermal projects was much more cost-effective, efficient, and eco-friendly. This is because development of large-scale geothermal plants required drilling several geothermal wells and leaving them to discharge steam for 2 years or more as they await full construction and development of the entire plant. This is not just bad for the environment, but it is also an inefficient way to utilize geothermal resources. But with the geothermal wellhead, you could just install one of these modules and start producing power soon after discharging a geothermal well. This means that gains were realized much earlier in a geothermal project. For instance, by using power produced from one of these wellheads to replace a diesel generator, further drilling could proceed at cheaper costs after eliminating the need to burn fuel to power engineering, equipment, and supporting infrastructure. Today, the investment in modular geothermal wellhead technology has paid off. Investment in this new technology has been a financial bedrock for Kengen. It brings significant annual revenue and has repaid the initial investment of more than 10 billion Kenya shillings. The use of this technology to tap geothermal resources has enabled Kengen to become profitable and given it leverage to secure loans for more investments into the geothermal sector. Currently, electricity from geothermal sources contributes more than 45% of supply to the national grid. This is up from just 10% in 2008. And this number is set to keep growing because studies have established the potential for geothermal power along the Rift Valley in Kenya to be at a whopping 10,000 megawatts. For perspective, the total installed capacity in Kenya's electricity grid as at 2022 is just over 3,000 megawatts, with geothermal resources contributing close to a gigawatt. That means less than 1% of non-geothermal resources in Kenya have been exploited as at the making of this video. Geothermal wellhead technology has helped Kenya keep the lights on and made power rationing a thing of the past. Since the pioneering adoption of this technology in Kenya, it has played a big role in ensuring a stable supply of electricity and drastically lowering the cost. This year, in the face of drought and low water levels in hydroelectric dams, geothermal power production has again ramped up to compensate for losses in hydroelectricity. It doesn't end there. Looking into the future, geothermal steam will be the main source of cheap and affordable power in Kenya. In its 2022 AGM, KenGen announced plans to install an additional 3,000 megawatts of power from geothermal sources by 2030. This ambition will further elevate Kenya's top global ranking in geothermal power production. Through the development and use of geothermal wellhead technology, Kenya has amassed unique experience and expertise in producing power from geothermal sources. Now, KenGen is leveraging its experience by taking contracts from East and Central African countries to assist in developing and installing new geothermal power generation capabilities. Technology changes everything. In our case, geothermal wellhead technology has saved us from the power rationing years and helped power the development of industries and communication in Kenya. Without this cheap and efficient power generation technology, it is plausible that Kenya's economy wouldn't have grown to become what it is today, and we wouldn't be enjoying many of the technological and economic privileges that we have. The story of geothermal and hydroelectricity in Kenya is also a great example of where politics crushes dreams but technology brings hope. The Kimorer and Arrow Dam projects, with a price tag of over 60 billion Kenya shillings, were supposed to complete the Seven Forks scheme and contribute hydroelectricity to the national grid while at the same time stopping flooding downstream. But because of politics and corruption, billions have been lost to these projects, and instead of seven dams, we only have five. On the other hand, new geothermal projects have seen investment of just about 10 billion Kenya shillings, but have delivered far better results with just a fraction of the cost. From this fact, it will be reasonable to argue that without the development of modular cost-effective geothermal wellhead technology, Kenya will still be struggling to keep the lights on. But the government is not always bad. In 2008, the Geothermal Development Company was established by the government to focus on drilling for geothermal resources to help de-risk the geothermal sector. GDC supplies the geothermal steam, while KenGen gets to focus on producing power. Using GDC for drilling operations, coupled with new geothermal wellhead technology, has made geothermal resources accessible to independent power producers. Opening the geothermal sector to independent power producers is expected to accelerate the development of cheap geothermal power in Kenya. I believe that technology has the power to unlock untapped potential, bring abundance, and even create excitement in the society. The story of geothermal power in Kenya is a great example of that. And it's just the beginning of what you can do. Like I said, Kenya has the potential to push this technology to other countries, to unlock new potential, and create tremendous economic value across Africa. On top of that, new technological developments like e-mobility are banking on cheap and abundant electricity from geothermal sources to make them a success. As a nation, it is important that we explore technology in new ways by not only becoming users of technology, but also pursuing new technological frontiers through research, development, and engineering. This is important not just because technology has the power to solve many problems, but also because technology creates fun and excitement in the society, and it also brings hope and motivation for the future. Here in my channel, we shall be talking matters technology. We will explore the latest trends in technology here in Kenya and Africa, look at how they impact our lives, and investigate the new opportunities they could unlock. We will dive deeper into how various technologies work with the aim of developing a better understanding of the technologies that define life and civilization as we know it. With this understanding, we can appreciate the role technology plays in our lives and even have our minds blown, witnessing the astonishing power of human ingenuity. For me, as I've come to learn how some of the technologies around us work, for example smartphones, I think that the ingenuity and hard work that people put in to develop such sophisticated technologies, especially at a nanoscale level, is the realistic definition of superpowers in humans. This is because humans thrive because of the genius to build technologies that make life easier and help sustain a growing population. But to realize such potential calls for inspiration, collaboration, hard work, and brilliance. Which brings me to the sponsor of this video. Brilliant. Hehe, just kidding. This is not a sponsored video. This channel is simply a passion project. I hope we'll get people inspired by exploring the fascinating world of engineering and technology here in Kenya. Should be fun, right? Let me know what you think by leaving a comment below. Personally, I aspire to learn quantum computing, which is a new paradigm of computing. I have been able to teach myself quantum computing through a free comprehensive Qiskit online course, courtesy of great engineers and developers at IBM Quantum. Through their courses and programs, I have built a foundational understanding of quantum computing and the potential it presents. Today, I invite you to join me in pursuing this young field of computing, where we have a chance to participate in its growth from a primitive stage to being the cutting edge of all computing. Hopefully, one day we'll do a video on quantum computing as the technology continues to mature and more intriguing discoveries come to light. If you're interested in becoming a geothermist, you can join the Geothermal Center of Excellence, which is a training facility funded by the Geothermal Development Company. This center offers training across all aspects of geothermal energy development and is meant to bridge the skills gap in the geothermal sector in Kenya. Join today and get the chance to become a part of the geothermal revolution in Kenya and Africa. Just like high pressure steam from the Earth's core has played a major role in growing our country, STEAM, that is science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, can take us to the next level and even one day elevate Kenya to being a powerful global economy.